Hello, everyone, and welcome back again to another episode of the Dev Spotlight series with MailChain. Super excited today to be talking with Jennifer Tran. She's a very big Web3 developer, and we were literally just saying how she can work from small projects to big projects, all time consuming to quick and rapid fire things. She's also a recent global DAO hackathon winner. Super excited to have you here. Can't wait to learn more about you and what you're working on. So I'm going to hand it over to you. Please give us a quick intro. Tell us who you are and what you're up to.
Hi guys, I'm Jennifer. I've been working in the Web3 space in various technical and entrepreneurship roles since 2019. I guess that makes me a crypto OG. Someone once told me that, and I was a little bit offended because I felt like they were calling me old. But of course, in this space, anyone who works more than 2 years, right, is
Yeah,
technically an
yeah.
OG. Yeah, I've been pretty much all over. Most notably, I launched a NFT marketplace called Mintgate. I've also worked in various technical roles, worked at a communication protocol. I've also helped launch a couple of DAOs. But as of now, I am a freelancer. I help out with Somewhere Street DAO, previously
Mhm.
Rally DAO, to become a Web3 game publisher. I'm also super active on Metrics DAO. If you go on my Twitter, now we're actually in the middle of a data dashboard building competition.
Yeah.
So we're like a whole bunch of people I know are just writing SQL queries and dashboards about Web3 block data. And I'm also working on a project called Mount Notion. It is, you can create Notion tables and then convert them into web pages. So I've just like all over the place in terms of Web3, Web2, and you can find me working on pretty much anything.
That's so cool. That's amazing to find you working on so many different projects and such varied stuff as well, like analytics and metric stuff to web creation to DAOs to kinds of things. How do you manage all of that? How do you find inspiration on what you want to work on next? Because it sounds like you want to do a bit of everything, but how do you find out what's the thing that drives you the most? And also, how do you deal with all of those constantly changing things?
Yeah, I've always been very interdisciplinary. Growing up, I was really curious about many different topics. And so I just like grew up just being just very interested in various topics. I remember like even in college, I probably took courses from like 20 departments. So I was naturally just inclined to just be everywhere, which
Yeah.
really served me well in my career because I think Web3 is, very, it, there's many different parts of Web3 to dive into. And so, yeah, for me, I really focus on communities I love and I have conviction in. So, for example, for Summer Street DAO, when I was at Mintgate, we had applied for a grant and had intention to
Yeah.
integrate rally tokens. It was a platform where we could token gate content. And so we built out a token gating system to gate no rally tokens. And then from there, like I just really love the rally community, and that's how I got involved with their DAO. And now they're in this transition phase where they're transitioning to helping various gaming platforms. In terms of balancing it, I come from actually from a liberal arts background, so I'm
Okay.
really used to kind of just being in many different fields. And after college, I actually worked at a logistics company where every day I had like 500 emails to handle. So early in my career, I just kind of had to know how to manage a crazy workload in a way. Then after that, there's a whole bunch of experiences in between that. But one of the other big experiences helped being able to manage different things, being a founder. As a founder at Mintgate, I was not just a developer, I was a marketer. I went to conferences, I was operations, I was in some ways a manager as well. So throughout my life,
Hmm.
I think I've just kind of built this stamina for or this ability to really work on many different things. And I think if anyone wants to go the freelancing route, I think it's a matter of building that mental muscle that you can work on many different things.
Yeah, I think you've hit on quite an interesting point that I've not really realized before, because I talk to a lot of developers both through this series and in my day job, and a lot of them in Web3 like to paint this picture that they're in total control. They've got this crystal clear path that they're going down. But in reality, if they're founders, and a lot of them are because Web3 is so new, they're actually a founder and a marketer and CTO and operations and all of this. So yeah, it is really hard to spin all of those plates and keep all of those balls in the air when you're juggling everything. So it's nice to meet someone that's honest about that, that is saying, actually, I do loads of stuff and you clearly enjoy it and you must be good at it. Did you start in, and your interest in web began through the Rally DAO and the Rally community, or did you start before that?
Yeah, I actually started before that. Actually, in university, I majored in urban studies, so you
Hmm.
think like I have no place in tech. I ended up working in operations at a supply chain company, so not very technical.
Yeah.
And I was dealing with a lot of inefficiencies, especially around data transparency. So I was trying to discover some sort of solution to that problem, and
Mhm.
I discovered blockchain as a technical solution. And it was interesting. The first blockchain event that I went to was hosted by Vitalik Buterin's mom.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, she was kind of like one of the first people that got me into blockchain
That's so
understanding.
cool.
It's a
That's so
great,
cool.
yeah, it's a great, it's really cool. That's the really the benefit of being so early at that time, was able to really butt heads, I guess, with all
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
OGs themselves. But yeah, I actually found blockchain as a great solution to enterprise biz- and businesses. And so I ended up teaching myself blockchain and web development, and now I'm here. Yeah, it's really interesting. I know that in the blockchain Web3 space, we kind of deviated a little bit away from the enterprise in terms of selling to
Generally
enterprise.
speaking, yeah.
My first tangible experience in Web3 was Mintgate, and we were working on NFTs and on the social aspect. But I think that everything that I'm working on, as well as other people are working on this concept of brand building, concept of partnerships, because the blockchain enables this new concept. How do you engage people? How do you incentivize people? How can enterprises work better together? Some people in the Web3 space are thinking about, but as long term, I think it would be really valuable for more people to think about that, because there's challenges to adoption, but a lot of potential.
One of the core principles and one of the things that attracts a lot of people, particularly developers, to Web3 is this idea of composability, where you can pick it up and you can build on top of it. You can take components of protocols, you can take components of dexes, all kinds of things, and you can turn it into a new use case, which is fantastic. And you don't need permission from whoever built the thing originally to go and do that. You can just hit the ground running. It's a truly open source ideology. However, one of the things we see a lot in Web3, and I think what your point is too, is that only really works on a very small scale. It doesn't work at an enterprise level. Or it might do, but we haven't seen very many use cases where an enterprise has been able to either provide or use the composability idea to build something new and exciting quicker than they could have other way. Hopefully in the next few years we'll start to see enterprises making use of all of this, and all of the brilliant work that's being done in Web3 and that's available on GitHub and other sources should start being adopted by enterprises and should start being contributed to by enterprises. So let's talk a little bit about Mintgate. I would love to learn a little bit about what inspired you and your team to build it, and where is it at now, and what's your plans in the future for Mintgate?
So Mintgate is an entity marketplace for token gated experiences. I had met my founders during COVID at the Gitcoin Kernel program. So
Yeah.
Gitcoin Kernel is a virtual Web3 incubator for individuals who want to build some sort of project. Finding my founders like at a virtual, almost like a virtual hackathon.
Yeah.
And then from there, we all kind of had this interest in creatives working with brands. And we decided to build this token gated TikTok. What ended up happening was we found that people were more interested in the token gating technology than just like another platform. So we
Mm.
launched a platform where people could utilize the token gating technology in whatever way they want to gate digital content. We've been together for the last 2 years. And right now we are actually looking to just open source a project. All of the founders are really interested in working on other parts of Web3. So
Mm.
right now we're not actively working on Mintgate, but we're open to any feedback from the community.
Yeah. So you're looking for people out there that might have a particular use case, or they want to get their hands on it for themselves for whatever reason, and you're looking to lean on this composability idea and say, here it is, world, go and take it to the next level and put it into whatever it needs to be in. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're looking for any individuals, organizations that want to really take Mintgate to the next level. We're open to having conversations with you on how we would share the code base or how you would utilize the platform. So yeah, just reach out to us if you're interested.
Amazing. What a good little plug. I love it. That's excellent. So you mentioned that you're looking into other projects and other areas of Web3 that you can I ask what they are? What gets you excited about Web3?
Yeah, so I'm really interested again in that composability, that data transparency, and I'm most excited right now about blockchain data.
Mm.
So really the power of the blockchain is like all of the data is completely public. And so there's a lot of platforms now that index that data, store it in some sort of Postgres table,
Mm.
and if you're a developer, you can get that data using SQL, which is a language that a lot of developers are familiar with. Or if you're not familiar with, it is easy to get up and running. And now AI, of course, and now there are tools where you can just ask a question and
Yeah.
then it will just actually create that query for you and then show you the visualization. So I guess you don't need to even be a developer nowadays to get that data, unless in a contextual way. So yeah, I'm very interested in understanding data trends and particularly like taking a look at this data and like what we can actually do with it. Because if you look into our lives, I mean, even in Web 2, right, data has a big part of how enterprises, individuals operate. And once we can actually take that data and kind of make it human readable, I think that also makes Web3 and blockchain also very appealing
Mm.
to people outside of
Yeah.
Web3
It's
DJs.
certainly
Yeah, I'm like most interested on the data side, anywhere from platforms that can help you query the data to APIs. I just like enjoy data. And you can see some crazy things that people can come up with. The most tangible thing that the most valuable thing is like identifying scams, right? I think like the biggest blocker for the blockchain right now is that there are a lot of scams. So if you can kind of use this data somehow to identify scammers, I think like that's like a really big win. But just like any insights, going back to enterprise, once you can kind of calculate those insights and how the blockchain can help with their business, I think it'd just be again more approachable.
definitely. I think you're completely on the money there. I think that is exactly. It's not the only problem with blockchain and Web3 adoption, but a big part of it is that it's confusing, and a lot of people believe they need to have a computer science degree to understand it, or an economics degree. I probably, if I'm being honest, I probably did get into Web3 later than I could have because of those exact reasons. And that was still early on, but I was still hesitant because there was no very good resources to learn about these things. You had to do it all manually, you had to go in and learn everything, and I didn't either have the time or the patience. So I could have probably got into the world of Web3 earlier if I'd had a helping hand from something that you're maybe working on or thinking about. I'm really excited to see what happens, and I hope if there's anybody watching that you reach out to Jennifer and the team. Have a fantastic idea. So thank you. So one of the questions we always ask on this series is, what advice would you give to someone that's starting out in Web3 development? They might be a Web2 developer moving into Web3, or they might be a brand new developer. What's some advice you would give, and what's some of the successes that you've had on your journey in Web3 as a developer?
Yeah, I would recommend them to find some sort of community that has an educational aspect where they can really learn within that community.
Mm.
So a couple of communities that kind of helped me along my way early in my journey are SheFi, DevRel University, Crypto Chicks. These are all communities that have some sort of cohort-based class or hackathon. Like for example, SheFi, which is a woman in DeFi initiative, as well as DevRel University. It is a cohort-based class on how to be a dev relations engineer in the Web3 space.
Yeah.
It's really good for you to be part of community that where you can kind of just have a lot of freedom, ask many questions, see what other people who are more experienced than you work on. I think that that's the most important because honestly, when I think that a lot of new people in the space, when I ever talk to them, what they lack is they lack confidence. Like they feel like they're
Yeah.
behind and they're learning. And ultimately, what I always tell people is if you're already in a room talking about NFTs, tokens, blockchain technology, you're already ahead of 80% of the population.
Yeah,
So,
100%, if not more. Yeah.
yeah, if not more, exactly. Take that as a confidence booster to help you really get to the next level because you're already ahead of most people. And if you start today, you're going to be more ahead of more people in the next like 5-10 years. So like you'll probably be a senior at what you do in a couple of years, which is a lot faster than I would say in any Web2 industry.
Yeah, it's so true. And the power of an echo chamber is something that is quite easily forgotten. You know, me and you, if we jump on Twitter, all we see is basically Web3 stuff. And it's very easy to convince yourself that the rest of the world is doing that. But if you take a step back and look at it statistically, it's probably less than 5% of the first world. So realistically, it may feel like sometimes you're late to the Web3 game. So don't lose faith. It's still very early days, and there's still a lot of people to on board. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was fantastic advice, and thank you for sharing it. I think joining a community is always the best place to start in Web3, and there are some fantastic communities out there. So another thing that is probably worth mentioning is that you take part in a lot of hackathons. One of the ones that we at MailChain know you for most recently is the Global DAO Hackathon that was run by Aragon Projects, and you submitted to our bounties, actually. I think you wrote a tutorial on how to link together video calling and Web3 messaging and email, which was amazing. So what was it like being part of the Global DAO Hackathon, and what inspired you to create that tutorial?
Yeah, I really enjoyed like the DAO Global Hackathon. It's like my second one that I'm participated in because it really focuses on like how DAOs can use blockchain technology. In particular, I was inspired when I was like thinking about MailChain. I used to be in the communication space as well. And I'm thinking, well, I want to send something important to someone, or I want to make sure that based on these wallet addresses, I can communicate with that person directly. And I know like one of the biggest challenges I have encountered is when you join like a webinar web call, there are a lot of times they'll give you like a pull-up or some sort of incentive, like some sort of freebie.
Yeah.
And what they usually do is they send it to people who signed up, not actually people in the call. So I wanted to combine Huddle 01, which is like a decentralized
Mm-hmm.
video call platform, with MailChain so that, what Huddle 01 does really well is like you can actually get the wallet addresses that are actually on the call at that moment. And then connecting that with MailChain, if you're doing some sort of incentive or you want to drop something exclusively to people who are actually in the call, you can just then press a button that just say, hey, you guys are actually in the call at that moment. And so you get this freebie.
Yeah.
So I was really thinking about how to incentivize people who are actually in calls because I think that's a big pain point, anywhere where people sign up to
Agree.
a
Yeah.
call and then they don't show up.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Yeah, I think it was a really inspired tutorial. I think a lot of DAO communities really enjoyed it as well, and I hope more people adopt it and use it as an incentive. It's a fantastic way to bring the community together around a subject, and everybody walks away with something useful, which is really cool.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, Jan, and I think you're going to do amazing things in the future. I can't wait to see what happens with Mintgate and the rest of your team and what you work on next. So thank you so much for spending some time with us today. If anybody's watching and is inspired by the stuff Jen's talked about, go and follow her on Twitter. Thank you so much again. Have a fantastic day.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom.
Awesome.